These are the best settings in Apex Season 19. In this video, we're going to go over graphic settings, controller settings, and mouse and keyboard settings. The graphic settings I use are what I feel are the best for me, which means higher FPS while gaming and streaming, and you should sub for those streams, smoothness of how the game feels, and reaction time for my controller or mouse to the game. We will also go over the best controller settings, although I don't play controller too much. I took inspiration from the best pros like Hal and Verhulst to bring the best settings for you. And on mouse and key, I took what feels the best for me after months of research from pros like Dark00 and former NRG Sweet Dreams. I hope you enjoy this video, and if anything in the video does help you, dropping a comment below and subbing would mean the world. Let's start with the NVIDIA control panel. A lot of people don't talk about this enough in their settings video. All you need to do is right click on your desktop and go to NVIDIA control panel as long as you have an NVIDIA graphics card. I feel like AMD also has something similar to this, but you guys can just go through and copy all of these settings. I don't truly know what a lot of them do, but I have done enough research to be able to figure out what is best for gaming and streaming to allow yourself to have the most FPS and smoothness of game. But this one, just copy down whatever you guys want to. If you don't want to do some of these settings, it's totally cool. But these are probably overall the best settings to gain 5 to 10% more FPS in your games. Jumping into the in-game settings of Apex, we'll start with the gameplay tab. These settings don't really matter too much. It's more personal preference and what you like on your screen. Like the interact prompt style, I like it as compact because there's less clutter on my screen. Damage numbers, I keep on stacking up because, again, less clutter. Some people like the floating, but I prefer the stacking just a little bit more. The only thing that really probably might matter for you in the game is weapon auto cycle on empty. I would keep that on, and then auto sprint, I would also keep that on. But besides that, nothing much on this part of this tab is going to be too beneficial for you. You can have anonymous mode on, you can have streamer mode on. I do like the performance display just to know how much FPS I'm getting and if I'm getting any packet lost, whether that's in-game or from myself. For the reticle, if you want to use my reticle, I use 0, 240, and 33. It's a nice bright green color. It allows it to stay in front of the legends, the opponent's legends, and I like the way that you can kind of keep a bright color on them so it doesn't really blend in with any of the legends. And then besides that, there's nothing else I really think. I think even the color blend mode is personal preference. I like Tritanopia, keeps the colors nice and bright, and I've always used these when I was playing Call of Duty and any other games that has color blind mode. I'm not colorblind, but I think it does look really, really good. Moving on to the video tab of the in-game settings for Apex, I keep my display mode on borderless window. If you want the most FPS though, I would go to full screen. I like mine borderless window because you can tab out super easily, whether you're watching a game on your other monitor, going over to your stream, doing whatever you need to. It's just super easy, but for the most FPS, go full screen. For the aspect ratio, I keep mine on 16.9. I don't like the stretch res. I never have, probably never will. It just looks cleaner with the normal aspect native ratio. For resolution, I do have a 1440p monitor, so I keep it here. If you have a 1080p monitor, I'd go 1080p, but obviously mine's 1440p, so that's what I keep it at. Whatever your monitor's max is, that's what you want it at. Brightness, keep it at about 60%, a little bit above the normal brightness that the game comes with, just to get a little bit brighter game, but you don't want to have this all the way up to 100. It looks terrible. Field of view, I would keep mine at 110. I always go to max FOV no matter what game it is. I know some pros like 108, but I keep mine at 110. I just want to see as much of the map as possible. FOV ability scaling, keep this on disabled. So whenever you're using movement abilities that increase your speed, whether it's Octane or some kind of jump pad or whatever it might be, your scaling will change your FOV. So if you're an Octane main, it's going to make your screen different than what your normally is, which could affect your aim, so keep this on disabled. Same thing for the sprint view shake. So if you're sprinting around, you don't want your screen to be shaking a ton, so keep this on minimal. For the advanced tab, I keep VSync disabled. There's a lot of tearing that happens if you don't have a super beefed up PC, so that's why I keep mine on disabled. NVIDIA Reflex disabled. Adaptive resolution FPS, keep this turned all the way down. And most of these I am going to have on low, but there are a few that I keep a little bit bumped up just because I do want the game to still look good. I have my FPS maxed out for my monitor, so I can keep these a little bit higher on some of them, especially when I'm streaming or recording. It does take a little bit more to record or stream, so I do crank these down a little bit, and it's just the smoothness of the game. So anti-aliasing, none. Texture streaming budget, I put it on very low. You can kind of get away with low or medium depending on your build. Texture filtering, I keep it on this one 2 times. Looked up some settings before and did a little deep dive into it. This is actually the best texture filtering for me. Some people have said that the 4 to 8 times gives you a little bit more smoothness, but I keep it on 2. It's plenty smooth for me. Ambient occlusion quality, keep this disabled. Any shadows, I keep it as low as possible. Sun shadow coverage, sun shadow detail, low, low. Spot shadow detail, low. Actually, can go one more with this one, so I'm gonna keep that disabled. Volumetric lighting disabled. Anything that has shadows or lighting, I keep it all the way down. For the model detail, I do keep these low. I don't really need the details of any of the legends or like the effects of the map. I think it gets kind of in the way if you're not careful, but it also increases your FPS, which is why we're here. So I would recommend putting all these down low, maybe mess with some of them like the textures, just to see which one fits well for your build. Next, we have the audio settings. Nothing crazy here. I keep my master volume all the way up because I do have a mixer that allows me to manually tune it. So I keep this all the way up. I know a bunch of my friends who don't have mixers, they keep this somewhere about 85 to 90 because this game can get pretty loud pretty quick. So I would maybe mess around with that and see what's best for you. Output device, I have, like I said, I have the mixer, so that's what it's actually on. Voice chat, it actually is going to be my mic that I have, which is this one right here, but I don't ever use. I always use Discord, so it's kind of whatever. Push to talk, open mic, whatever you prefer. My push to talk's T. We'll look into that a little bit later in the mouse and key settings, but nothing crazy here. I keep the dialogue, music, and lobby volume all the way down, as well as the sound background off. It just is too much clutter for me in the backdrop. All I want to hear is footsteps, shooting, and any abilities going off. So that's what I keep mine at. Next, let's get into the actual input settings, controller, and mouse and keys. Starting with the controller, like I said earlier, I am not a controller main. I do play controller from time to time, but I've taken a lot of details from Verhulst and how the 2 best controller players in the world and mess with their settings to be best for what my play style is. I don't have a controller with paddles and stuff. I play claw, so this actually is the best for me. And I know Hal plays claw as well. I think Verhulst does as well. For button layout, I have a customized preset. You can kind of look at these a little bit. I like the crouch is always the same, melee's B, but some of my I have some different settings in here that you might want to look at and maybe see if you want to use those. But these are pretty basic in the aspect, but with me playing claw, I'm able to get away with a little bit more stuff. So look over these, see if you like them, and mess around with these a little bit. Bumper jump's always a good one, and button puncher is also a good one as well. Going from there though, stick layout's default. If you use Southpaw or Legacy Southpaw, you're a maniac, and I love you, but not for me. Interact, reload, tap to use, and reload. Tap to use is always going to be your best friend. Crouch button, we just use toggle, make it as fast as possible. Aim button, hold. I've never used toggle for aiming before because in Call of Duty it was always just hold. So I wonder if that's something to mess with, but I've never done it, so I will never use it. Survival slot button, keep that on just to make sure you guys have your heat shields, your jump towers, your mobies, everything like that. Trigger dead zones, I don't have any. I don't have a custom controller, so I don't know if that really benefits much at all. Keep it on none. Menu cursor speed, I've messed with this a little bit. I don't keep it too high, keep it a little bit lower. I want to make sure I'm accurate when I'm doing that and not trying to be as fast as possible, but I don't main controller, so I would imagine people keep this a little bit higher to shield swap and loot boxes as fast as possible. Now, for the... I'm going to go to linear here. For the movement and aiming, the best all-around settings, you can ask any pro, is 4-3 linear. These are the best settings for controller. If you don't use these, you're crazy because these are the absolute best settings you could possibly have. Look, dead zone, I have none. I don't have really much dead zone, so I don't really mess with it too much. Per optic settings, I keep these off just because I don't really use it too much. I keep them just at the normal default. I don't think many controller players keep these on for different optics. I do for the mouse and key, but not for controller. Look dead zone, like I said, none. Movement dead zone is very small though. And invert look off. You don't want to be inverted unless you have some kind of reason to that. Vibration, I would say keep this off. I think having vibration on can mess with your aim sometimes if you're not careful. I played with it for a long time and turned it off. It took me like 2 days to figure out the feeling of it, and no vibration is incredible. Now let's move on to our last setting tab, which is a mouse and key. Starting out with the mouse and key, my sensitivity is 0.46. I believe it's 0.4644 if I'm not mistaken. It's a very exact number. And I play on 1600 DPI. So I don't know what the conversion for that is, but that is my true settings. And my ADS mouse sensitivity, I do have these per optic on. For the one times, I keep it a little bit lower than my normal hipfire settings for the 2 times. I keep it a little more up so I can move, and then I just slowly bump these up one by one. For the six times, I keep it at 1.1. I don't know why, but for the 6 times to the 8 times, I like it a little bit lower in between. And then I don't really ever use the 10 times optic because you never get it. But these are the main ones are the 1 times, 2 times, 3 times, and 4 times if we're looking at the main guns to use. From here are all my movement settings. Mouse acceleration though off, invert off, clamp mouse. Just keep these all off. Unless you have a keyboard that you want to have lighting effects with your game, which I feel like would be a little confusing and distracting, keep these all off. Now for these, the 2 settings that you have to have if you're a mouse and key player: move forward up on the scroll wheel, jump low or down on the scroll wheel. Everything else is kind of personal preference. Crouch toggle V is also a very important one if you want to super glide, but everything else is kind of personal preference that I've messed with. The only ones that are a little bit different that I have messed with is I have my ultimate at Z. It's just easy for me to click that. These are normal, and another one, oh yeah, my equipment weapons, I keep on my buttons that are on my mouse. I think it just always worked well with me, so I always kept him on there because I don't have 5 inventory slots. It's just super easy to click in between these 2. Holster weapon at 1, grenades, survival item I have at 3, and then I actually am a noob and just click my syringe tab and then just scroll through it like you would on controller. That's just kind of how I've always done it. I haven't really messed with these too much, but these are just by default what they are. I might need to practice these a little bit, but my hands probably don't reach over there like I feel like they should. So all of this is kind of default for the most part. Push talks T. And then I don't think any of these are even set. I don't even know what these do if I'm being honest, but the main ones are scroll wheel down for jump, scroll wheel up for move forward if you want to tap strafe. And then these are kind of the only other options that I really mess with too much. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was kind of a short one, but I hope it was informative. I hope you guys go through your NVIDIA control panel, and I hope you guys use some of these settings. If you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like, drop a sub, and comment your favorite emoji down below. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in the next video.